Is Donald Trump in hiding? CNN seems to think so.
Yesterday, in a background briefing with administration officials, they implied that it had to happen now, that this attack on Iran had to happen now because there was intel that there was a potential for preeminent strikes on Americans from Iran. So this had to happen. What we have just learned, and this is our colleagues Natasha Bertrand and Zach Cohen, are learning that in a briefing today, Pentagon briefers actually undercut that argument when talking to Capitol Hill staffers and briefing them, saying there was no imminent threat, but they just pointed to the fact that they have a ballistics program and said that historically speaking, we cannot let them attack Americans. Well, this is something that has been true for a long time. And just to add on top of that, President Trump has done a series of these kind of 3 to 5 minute phone interviews with reporters. And in one of them, he was asked why now. And President Trump said they weren't willing to stop their nuclear research. So that is something we haven't been able to pin down. The other thing we haven't been able to pin down is an actual timeline. We've gone everywhere from 4 weeks to 1 week to 2 days. President Trump tonight came home from the White House. He usually stops and talks to the press. He completely ignored us, instead stopped and admired some new statues that were being put into the Rose Garden. We hadn't seen them before. They appear to be the founding fathers, saying, come look at them. They're unbelievable. And then walked away.
For viewers who might be wondering what is the real reason for Trump's strikes on Iran, CNN posted an interview with this individual, Karim Sajapour of the Carnegie Endowment. My wife asked me who was the Carnegie Institute or Carnegie Endowment and were they government funded? And when I explained that no, they were a capitalist institute that were privately funded, then she was very relieved. Oh, she said, so they're independent of the government. That's a pretty sorry state of affairs when you can have more confidence in a capitalist institution than you can have in our own government.
There wasn't an imminent threat that Iran was about to acquire nuclear weapons or any intelligence that they were about to launch strikes, whether against U.S. interests or our allies. But there was an imminent threat to the president's credibility.
CNN then posted this interview with a retired general. These retired generals generally give the thinking of the military command as it stands.
Are the indicators that the IRGC might be fracturing? And is there any indication that the population is prepared to rise up and maybe try to accelerate that fracturing? If we don't see that, this is not a 4-week fight. We're going to have to make a determination before then. It's time to cut bait.
Did you hear that? A decision to cut bait. In other words, to leave without having accomplished any of the goals of the Trump triumvirate. Let's listen to Sajapour again.
This regime really has no reliable allies in the world.
Is he talking about the Iran regime or the Trump regime?
CNN then interviewed Jason Crow, Democratic member of the House of Representatives.
Oh, I'm furious, Aaron. I'm absolutely furious because Donald Trump is very cavalier with other people's lives. He loves pounding his chest and acting tough and talking about the costs of war. But he knows nothing about the costs of war, nor do his billionaire donors, nor do any of the political elites in the White House that he's surrounded himself with. They are very quick to play with other people's lives and other people's money. Right? They are doing this without debate, without transparency, without any justification. And who is left holding the bag but our service members and the working class of this country?
All of this indicates 2 points. They are that it's almost invariable in the United States that when the government goes to war, the president and his mouthpieces conduct an all-out PR blitz. And the entire media initially more or less falls into line. We are one united country, politics stops at the U.S. border, etc., is what we hear. Here, though, major parts of the media are extremely critical right from the start, and the president is in hiding. The reason for these twin points is indicated by a 6-minute telephone interview Trump did with the New York Times, which is the first and only time since he started this war that he's answered any questions from the media. And note that it was by telephone, where he could cut it off whenever he wanted to. In that interview, Trump waffled back and forth, saying that, quote, it won't be difficult, quote, after admitting that his objectives will take 4 to 5 weeks, which is probably far longer than he had anticipated. But the heart of his problem is that he doesn't have any clear objectives. Apparently from the interview, he thought this would be like Venezuela, where he took out his president and then the rest of the regime fell into line, or so he thought. And the end of that story hasn't been written yet. He's now starting to realize that Iran might be very different. In the interview, he advanced the thought that the repressive apparatus, including the Revolutionary Guard and the secret police, the Basij, might turn over their arms to the people. Well, you can say a lot of things about this criminal apparatus, but one thing you cannot say about them is that they are suicidal. And they know that if they turn their arms over to the people, they will be at the receiving end of those arms. Meanwhile, inside Iran,
state media broadcast images of what they say is a girls' elementary school that was decimated this weekend. Footage from the scene shows the remnants of children's school bags and books, along with grieving parents. Iranian officials say over 100 students have been killed, with scores more injured and others still buried in the rubble.
Just as we are finishing up this video, we're getting reports about systematic attacks on Kurdistan in Iran. And it appears that that is the real target of the Trump regime's attacks in Iran in general. We will have further video and further reports on that question. We conclude with this. Much is being made by all sides about the so-called rule of law. But the brilliant journalist, Iranian Siavash Shahabi, makes the point that law for the poor is a whip, and law for the rich is just a showcase.